Hello beautiful women, thank you so much for joining me on my channel. My name is Stef Wild, and today I'm really looking forward to talking about how to become a more feminine woman. And I don't mean necessarily giving you points on clothes and makeup and all of that kind of stuff. To me, femininity is something much deeper that can be a part of it, but it's just a tiny little part of it. So I've actually had quite an interesting journey with becoming more in tune with my feminine, and it's such an interesting thing to discover within yourself. I was always very in my masculine, especially when I went into corporate. I was competitive and dominating and just harsh. Had a very harsh energy. I was kind of focused and go-getter and just competitive and all those things. And I don't feel it was like a healthy masculine energy. It was more of an unhealthy masculine. And I feel that there's a lot of women these days that do reside in that type of energy. And first of all, one of the reasons why I want to talk about it is because it's not overly attractive, if that's something that you're concerned about. It's also not that healthy for women to be overly in their masculine energy, especially an unhealthy masculine energy. And I really want to invite us to enjoy the full spectrum of ourselves. Not just, stay in that kind of one-sided approach to being in our bodies. There's so many different spectrums to being in a body and being a woman, a female biological woman. There's so many aspects to this. So I want to, and my journey has really helped me discover that once you do tune into that feminine energy, it's like a whole new world opens up for you. And there's more ease and flow in it. And things tend to make a lot more sense. A lot of the time when people talk about feminine and masculine energy, they kind of tend to get it a bit confused with gender. And that's not necessarily what we're talking about here. Although one gender might have more of a predisposition to one type of energy than the other, but it's not really the whole picture, because we all have feminine and masculine energy within us, and when we're all unbalanced one way or another, we kind of run into troubles with how we approach life, with how we feel in ourselves, and how we might interact with other people and in the world. So creating a healthy balance not only allows you to get to know yourself, but also just is healthier in general. And saying the words feminine and masculine energy, we kind of naturally link it to gender. So I'm also going to throw in some other words like Shakti and Shiva, or yin and yang, because there's a lot of cultures around the world that recognize that there are two energies within the world and within us that work together. It's not about them competing with each other, although if we're in this kind of unhealthy, kind of like beginner stages of interacting within this energy, you might find yourself interacting more in an unhealthy way with these energies, and they might compete within you, or you might project that competition within you onto others and start to compete with them. But really, these energies are meant to work together. It's like the yin and yang symbol. You see that beautiful round circle, and within it there's the yin and yang, and they're kind of flowing together. And that's the idea behind feminine and masculine energy as well. It's an energy within. It's an energy in the world. It's not necessarily makeup and clothes, and that's what makes you more feminine. If that was the case, then why is this rock in my town considered masculine and this rock in my town considered feminine. The rocks don't wear makeup, the rocks don't wear pretty clothes. What is it about the energy of this land that can be so different to indigenous cultures? One of the main things that people talk about, that I've learned in the Tantra community around feminine and masculine energy, or Shiva and Shakti, or yin and yang, is that the feminine energy's deepest desire is safety, while the masculine's deepest desire is freedom. So for the and we'll talk about mostly the feminine energy in this video, but for the feminine to really come out, it requires safety. And the way that I see this is that as women, we get to create safety within ourselves to be able to express this beautiful energy, because it can draw attention. It is such a powerful energy, and people notice it. They don't know why, but they notice it. And I think one of the most famous examples of this is Marilyn Monroe. And I wrote down one of the quotes by her friend that wrote about this in a book, I think, about Marilyn. And the quote goes like this, the paragraph goes like this: "I'll never forget the day Marilyn and I were walking around New York City, just having a stroll on a nice day. She loved New York because no one bothered her there like they did in Hollywood. She could put on her plain Jane clothes and no one would notice her. She loved that. So as we were walking down Broadway, she turns to me and says, 'Do you want to see me become her?' I didn't know what she meant, but I just said yes. And then I saw it. I don't know how to explain what she did because it was very subtle, but she turned something on within herself that was almost like magic. And suddenly cars were slowing and people were turning their heads and stopping to stare. They were recognizing that this was Marilyn Monroe, as if she pulled off a mask or something. Even though a second ago, nobody noticed her. I had never seen anything like it before." And that was by Amy Green, I think. She wrote that about Marilyn Monroe. And I feel like what she's really talking about, and this is the essence of this feminine Shakti energy, is that it isn't in your clothes, it isn't in the makeup, it isn't in what you look like necessarily. It's that feeling, it's this power from within, this energy from within that you cultivate within yourself. And because it can be so strong and so powerful that people notice it, it is nice to sometimes to turn it off, especially with Marilyn Monroe, who just had so much attention when that energy was on. And it's amazing that she was able to switch it on and off like that as well. And it must have been so powerful and so potent, because even now we see her as a symbol of femininity, of the feminine. But as Amy described in this paragraph, it wasn't something that she had on all the time. It wasn't the clothes that she wore. It wasn't the makeup. In fact, she could walk the streets of New York and no one would notice her until she switched that magical thing on within her. So what is that magical thing? That is the feminine, that Shakti energy, that yin energy that we all have within us. And in majority of the cases, it's more of a woman thing as well. Even our bodies, kind of the biology of our bodies, with our menstrual cycles, with menopause, with motherhood, all of these phases in our lives tend to pull us deeper into that feminine, deeper into that Shakti energy, deeper into the nurturing, the slowness, the inwardness, the emotion, the fierceness, the wildness, the rawness, the embodiment, which is the feminine. the subtle realm of intuition, of a connection to nature, to understanding our own nature. So the way that I understand the feminine, the way that I discovered it for myself, is it was a process. It wasn't something that, especially after being in that masculine energy, and I didn't realize I was stuck in my masculine. And I feel also, we give women these days a bad rap who have been in their masculine energy for a prolonged period of time and don't know how to fall into their feminine. Because from looking back, I was stuck in my masculine energy, and I was very competitive, dominating, wanting to control things. And, I was full of trauma, and also part of a system that is more focused on creating for the masculine energy of go, 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 where menstrual cycles and our bodies aren't considered, that we need the inwardness, that we need the slowness, where, it's a system of being always productive, always busy, always getting the next thing, but never allowing yourself to just be. And the feminine is very much about jumping into the unknown, while the masculine is more into knowing and setting goals and being focused. While the feminine is about jumping into the unknown and allowing yourself to just be in that unknown. And there's so many different layers to the feminine energy as well. And one of the ways that I tuned into my feminine energy and was able to connect to her more was through understanding my body, my feminine body, and connecting to my body, understanding my menstrual cycle, slowing down, healing my trauma, understanding what was making me tick, what was making me reactive, what was making me want to control certain situations, what was making me triggered, regulating my nervous system, finding pleasure for myself instead of performing for others, understanding my sexual energy and how it worked and how I could cultivate it. Then it shut down after my ayahuasca trauma, and I'm slowly working towards rebuilding it again. But understanding the sexual energy is so important as well. It was about setting boundaries and understanding my boundaries, because the feminine needs safety in order for her to start showing up. And after a trauma, we might not feel safe within our bodies, which is why that feminine might shut down. Or if we've had chaotic family dynamics in the past, or traumatic events in our past, and our bodies haven't fully processed it, because trauma can get stuck in our cells, in our bodies. And if we don't have the tools to know how to release it, then being constantly stuck in the masculine energy can be a protective mechanism. Or being in a system that is built around go, 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 and more of that masculine energy, and more around masculine hormones that, rise during the day and stay risen until they fall asleep. They don't have the, crazy ups and downs, the waves of hormones that we experience during the month. It's a system that is built more for that masculine energy. So the feminine energy is more receptive as well. It's not so much about going for it. And, I feel like an erection is a good representation of what a masculine energy. It's very penetrative and goes for it. While, for example, a vagina, it's kind of like going into the unknown. She needs time to warm up, and is more receptive, takes it in instead of giving it. So it's very, there's so many things that represent masculine and feminine energy within us. What else did I want to talk about? Yes, so it took me a long time of being able to understand what this feminine energy is. And you can read all the books about feminine and masculine energy. You can watch all the videos about feminine and masculine energy, but you won't actually really, really understand it until you feel it. Especially the feminine energy. You won't understand until you fully feel it. And in order to feel it, you have to work with your body in order to feel it, so that you can understand it. It's not a mind thing. The feminine energy is very much about dropping into your body and feeling and emotion and intuition and slowing down and going internal, and feeling all the different aspects of yourself. So it takes specific exercises that help you embody yourself in order to really feel into what it feels like to be in your feminine energy. And one of my clients also said to me that, she watched my videos and she saw how juicy I was, especially when I'm dancing naked on Instagram, or, being in my feminine on Instagram. And she said, and then I read about it and just didn't quite understand how to get there. So that's why she became a client of mine, a one-on-one client of mine. And I worked with her to figure out what those blocks were that were holding her back from going into her feminine energy, from feeling that juiciness within herself. And once we were able to understand those blocks and work with them and do these exercises that connected her deeper to her body, that allowed her to slow down and be with herself and to feel, that's when her sexual energy just erupted and she felt so beautiful and juicy within herself. And that's always such a beautiful thing to witness in a woman, when she really understands that feminine energy. And it's not even a logical thing. It's, you gotta feel it to understand it. And then you're able to understand when you're in your feminine, when you're in your masculine. One of the other reasons why women have been so in their masculine energy is because the feminine energy has been so rejected in cultures and societies. I'm not one to always scream about patriarchy, and I feel like feminism has gone in a very weird direction these days. But the truth is, we have grown up, and over centuries the feminine has been repressed, and it has been a very patriarchal society. And so throughout that patriarchal society, the feminine has been rejected and repressed. And what I mean by feminine are the feminine qualities of softness. Softness has been seen as a weakness. Emotion has been seen as a weakness. And there's a way to express emotion healthily and unhealthily, but that might be for a different video. Let me know if you want to see that in the comment section below. Nurturing, motherhood has been downgraded. Menstruation has been pushed to the shadows and shamed. Female sexuality and erotic energy has been pushed to the shadows and shamed and covered up because of the power that it has. And that the power of the feminine has just been beaten down so much. So it's kind of been this protective mechanism that we as women have developed, that in order to create space for ourselves within this patriarchal structure, we've had to act like men so that we could gain respect, in a sense, from men, from the masculine, and be able to kind of like establish ourselves. Now I feel in the Western world, we've mainly done that. Like, it's pretty safe for so many women to, we have a certain level of equality, and now we're kind of like, something doesn't feel right. I'm missing something. Something is missing. And so we're seeking something different. And, you know, the answer for me, after experiencing this process of understanding my feminine side and embodying this feminine side within myself, has been the missing link, has been to stop rejecting these parts of myself that society have deemed unworthy, that don't fit into this structure that the world has been created around, of overly masculine, of creating more balance in myself between masculine and feminine. And, you know, it's not about rejecting your masculine side either. It's about creating more balance within yourself so that you can be this multi-dimensional being and love both sides of yourself. Love the feminine qualities and allow them to work for you, as well as your masculine qualities. And recognize when it's unhealthy masculine, unhealthy feminine, and when it's healthy masculine and healthy feminine qualities as well, so that you can work with all of them. You know, I've gone through a stage of being so in my feminine, the pendulum swung so much from one side to the other at one stage, where I was in my masculine, and then it swung so much to the feminine. I was so in my feminine energy that I would not get anything done. I was just constantly healing in my emotions and, you know, doing my practices, but I never was really getting stuff done. So we need the masculine to get stuff done, to participate in the world, to act, and, you know, just, it's kind of like the feminine can help us uncover our truth and what we've come here to be in this life, through healing from going inward, through understanding ourselves. But then she uncovers this truth, and the masculine takes it and runs with it and puts it into practice and does what takes the action that needs to be taken in order to fulfill this soul desire, to fulfill the soul's purpose. And to go along the path that we have in this life, our own unique path. So we need both, and neither is wrong or better than the other. They both have equal powers. They're just different powers, and they complement each other. It's like when you're in a relationship with a masculine man and you're in your feminine, both complement each other. Neither is better than the other. They just work together well. Or, you know, in gay relationships, a lot of the time, one person in a gay relationship is more masculine than the other. And the other person is more in their feminine. I've seen this in lesbian relationships, where one woman will tend to become more masculine and the other one will become more feminine. And that's creating that polarity in the relationship so that they can both complement each other. And also, in couples, you can swing between feminine and masculine energy. So I can go from feminine to masculine, and my partner goes from masculine to feminine as well. So it's kind of like this play between those energies. And I feel like also, you know, I went through a phase of rejecting being a woman, especially during my teenage years. I felt like because growing up in such a masculine system, the boys just seemed to get it all. And I rejected being a woman. You know, the transitions that we go through, menstruation, having to have our period every month. It seemed like such a curse at the time. Or childbirth, the way that movies portrayed it, the way that the medical system portrays childbirth, and the way that we portray being a mother in movies and society, and how mothers are treated. It all just seemed like everything was against being a female. Now, because the journey towards becoming a more feminine woman for me was about learning how to embrace my womanness, fully embrace my womanness. And even though I was an adult already, I think it was only during this stage, I was, I think, about 34 when I started doing Tantra and started to understand feminine energy more. And it was only then that I actually started to feel like a real woman within myself. When I started to understand my body, when I started to understand my biology, my menstrual cycle, the power of it, when I started to understand my pleasure and that it was for me, when I started to understand my sexual energy, when I started to set boundaries and not people please as much. There were so many aspects towards understanding my womanness, to understand my softness and just how powerful it is. Once I started to understand that, I would drop into my feminine energy more. And as women, we don't really have the role models in our society that show us what it means to fully embrace our womanhood. The rituals around menstruation, around understanding menstruation, around understanding conscious conception, around understanding a beautiful orgasmic pregnancy or a psychedelic birth. These are all things that I had to find on my own as more and more women embrace their feminine, their womanhood, and start to understand their bodies, understand their connection with spirit, with their spirituality, and tie their womanhood all in with their spirituality. It's only then that I started to understand, wow, actually, being a woman is magic. Understanding our feminine Shakti, yin energy is magic. The way that we get to embody it in these feminine, beautiful female bodies is pure magic. And they're so designed for that in every aspect. It's all perfect. But we don't understand that until we go on this journey of discovering this feminine energy or understanding our womanhood in a more conscious way that is separating ourselves from a system that has stripped us of all of this and continues to do so, to minimize our womanly experience, to minimize what we actually are. It's kind of like a reclamation of our own power. And it's not necessarily in this feminist way. Even feminists have become so much more masculine. It's embracing our power through our softness. A man, it's so interesting. I found that when I was in my feminine, I would be so against a man helping me. But when I discovered my softness and the power of the feminine, I know that if I switch it on and be in this beautiful feminine energy, men want to help me. They want to be of service. And I'm not afraid to receive that. And it's beautiful for me, but also beautiful for them, because they want to respect and revere the feminine. Men are seeking the feminine as well, not only within themselves, but within women. They want to have that softness, because the softness of women helps open up that softness within men too. So it's such a beautiful thing. And the masculine, helps to ground the woman in so many ways. We can become a little bit ungrounded sometimes if we're just in our feminine. Man can help ground us. And yeah, there's just so many beautiful things about the polarity that we create between the masculine and the feminine within ourselves and within each other and in our environment. It's just such a powerful thing to learn to understand within yourself. So the feminine isn't about how much makeup you wear or the clothes that you wear, even though certain clothes and makeup might help evoke more of it. Like, for example, this is probably my only dress that I have where I really, I still have my hip injury. When I really wear it, I feel like it evokes more of my feminine energy and kind of coerces her to come out more. But, other than that, I don't wear makeup. I don't really have special clothes. There's a lot of women that, have had surgery or pump up their lips or do a shit ton of makeup or, wear very figure, hugging clothes that they're not in their feminine energy, they're in their masculine energy, and they still have that harsh edge about them. So it's not about what we wear and how much makeup we have or how we look necessarily. Any woman can learn to dive into her feminine energy by understanding herself. It's about understanding yourself, understanding the energy, and learning when it turns on, when it turns off. So I hope this video has helped to enlighten this topic a bit on what it takes to become a more feminine woman, and how to fully embrace this new aspect of yourself. It's not new, it's always in there. But just how to embrace this aspect of yourself that you have within yourself that opens up this magic door to a whole new world, to a whole new understanding of yourself. It's beautiful. The feminine is beautiful and powerful, and you won't know it until you actually experience it. So if you have any questions around this video, or want me to explain anything more, please let me know in the comment section below. If you want me to run a workshop on the feminine and masculine energies and want to really dive deep into it and experience it for yourself, then let me know in the comment section below as well. If you want me to create something around, a different video around it all, or a different topic that you're interested in that I mentioned in this video, just let me know. Or just share with us if you have experienced this feminine energy within yourself. Share with us in the comment section below your process and what you went through and how it feels, so that other people might get other women might get more of a feel of what it means to be in the feminine. And I love reading your comments. If you want to stay in touch with me, make sure you subscribe to my emails as well, and subscribe to this channel. I'm producing a video every week now, so I'm really excited to create more for you along the way. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Mwah!